A heads up if you're a fan of Greek yogurt and you shop at Meijer. Meijer is recalling yogurt because there could be glass in it.
It's sold as a health food, high in protein, good for your gut, an easy choice in the dairy aisle. But behind the wellness branding, some yogurts pack more sugar than a jelly donut. Literally. A Dunkin' jelly donut has 13 grams of sugar. Some yogurt cups, 18, even 20. And it's not just naturally occurring lactose. We're talking about added sugars, layered in fruit on the bottom, blended into so-called Greek, and hidden under labels like vanilla, honey, or lightly sweetened. In a snack marketed as clean, balanced, and good for digestion, that's not just misleading. It's dangerous, because the science is clear. Added sugar fuels inflammation, spikes your blood glucose, and increases the risk of heart disease and diabetes. The American Heart Association says 25 grams a day is the limit for women, 36 for men. Some yogurts blow past that in a single serving. So how did something once considered a health staple turn into a silent sugar bomb? The same shelves hide both the best and the worst. Here are 7 yogurt brands actually worth buying, and 3 you should avoid at all costs. Drop a comment right now. Which yogurt brand is in your fridge? Let's see if it makes the list. Number 1. Icelandic Provisions. The Icelandic import that refuses to apologize for thickness. The average flavored yogurt in America carries 19 grams of sugar per serving. That's a chocolate pudding cup. That's what the industry calls healthy now. Dessert rebranded as breakfast. Thin and sweet and gone in 2 bites. Icelandic Provisions. Vanilla. Skyr doesn't play that game. Open the cup and the first thing you notice is resistance. It doesn't slosh. It doesn't jiggle. The spoon doesn't dip. It cuts. That thickness isn't chemistry. It's not gar gum or modified starch holding the illusion together. It's milk concentrated the old way. 4 cups of milk strained down into 1 cup of skyr. No shortcuts, no stabilizers, just gravity and time doing what factories refuse to wait for. The numbers tell the rest. 17 grams of protein, only 9 grams of sugar. Compare that to mainstream vanilla yogurts pushing 18 to 20 grams of sugar with barely half the protein. In a market built on dilution, Icelandic Provisions went the opposite direction. They condensed it, thickened it, made it mean something again. Why would a company choose density over profit? Because in an industry racing to stretch every cup with air and stabilizers, Icelandic Provisions bet on the opposite. They made a product so thick it couldn't hide behind marketing. 4 ingredients: milk, cultures, vanilla, a hint of sugar. That's it. The vanilla isn't loud or artificial. It's real bean extract, subtle enough to taste like flavor instead of frosting. The cultures come from Iceland, heirloom strains used for generations, not lab designed for speed or shelf life. This is living food, not a science project optimized for margins, and that's the risk. In an industry that's learned to fake creaminess, stretch dairy with fillers, and mask weakness with sweetness, a product this dense feels like an accusation. It doesn't apologize for being thick. It doesn't apologize for being tart. It just sits there in the refrigerated aisle, quiet and unapologetic, reminding you what yogurt used to be before corporations got involved. 1 cup, 4 ingredients. Protein that matters, sugar that doesn't dominate. If you've forgotten what real yogurt tastes like, this is where you start. Subscribe before the next one. The 3 worst offenders are still ahead, and one of them is probably in your fridge right now. Number 2, Siggi's, the brand that made no added sugar mean something again. Before every brand started slapping high protein and no sugar on their labels, Siggi's was already doing it, not as a marketing angle, as a standard. It started in 2004. An Icelandic man in a New York kitchen, disgusted by American yogurt's sweetness, made skyr the old way. Tart, thick, real. That frustration became a standard. Open a cup of Siggi's and you feel the weight immediately. The spoon meets resistance, real resistance, not the fake thickness that comes from gar gum and pectin. Siggi's earns its texture by using 4 times more milk per cup than standard yogurt. No stabilizers, no starches, just milk, strained down until what's left is dense and alive. The numbers, 15 to 19 grams of protein per cup, depending on flavor. 0 grams of added sugar, not reduced sugar, not lightly sweetened, none. The only sweetness comes from the milk itself or real fruit, never syrups, never concentrates, never juice from concentrate, labeled as fruit. That restraint is what throws people off. Why does plain yogurt feel wrong to so many people? Because Siggi's doesn't taste like candy. We've been trained to expect dessert every time we open a cup. It's sharp, clean, tangy, because yogurt isn't supposed to taste like frosting. It's fermented dairy, naturally sour, and Siggi's refuses to hide that. The ingredient list reads like something your grandmother would recognize. Milk, cultures, fruit, sometimes honey, no gums, no modified starches, no natural flavoring covering up cheap shortcuts, and it behaves like real food. You can use it in savory recipes, salad dressings, soup toppings, marinades, and it holds its structure. It doesn't break down or turn watery the second it hits heat. Try that with a mainstream yogurt and watch it collapse. Siggi's didn't just grow, it grew without compromising. No dessert-flavored spin-offs, no sugar bombs hiding under protein claims, no pastel rebranding to chase trends, just skyr that still tastes like it was made by someone who cares, not a factory optimized for shelf space. In a dairy aisle where healthy has become a hollow buzzword, Siggi's is still literal. Real milk, real cultures, real discipline. It's not selling nostalgia, it's selling honesty. And in 2025, that's rarer than the yogurt itself. Number 3, Oikos Triple Zero. the protein brand that backed up the label for once. Zero added sugar, zero artificial sweeteners, zero fat, 15 grams of protein. You've heard this before, on 100 other labels, in 1,000 other aisles, and every time, it was a lie dressed up as wellness. Sugar alcohols buried in fine print, sucralose hiding behind natural flavors, texture so thick it moves like paste, sweetness that clings to your tongue like a chemical film. So when Oikos Triple Zero makes the same promise, you expect the same betrayal. But then you open it. No chemical smell, no gummy drag. The spoon moves through it like actual food, not engineered foam. And when it hits your tongue, something's different. It doesn't punish you for wanting protein. It doesn't make you choose between nutrition and flavor. It just works. 15 grams of protein per cup, the same as a small chicken breast. No added sugar, no fat. And the sweetener, stevia leaf extract, is where most brands crash and burn. Stevia has a reputation, that metallic aftertaste, that artificial ghost that lingers long after the spoonful is gone. But Oikos managed to tame it. The sweetness hits clean, fades fast, doesn't overstay its welcome. For once, zero sugar doesn't taste like zero effort. The texture tells the rest of the story. It's thick, but it's not lying about why. No guar gum holding it together, no modified starch faking density. The structure comes from the protein itself, milk concentrated until what's left is real, not inflated with fillers to trick your spoon. But here's the cost. Zero fat means something's missing. Fat carries flavor. Fat delivers satisfaction. Fat makes yogurt feel like food instead of medicine. Strip it out, and you're left with something functional but hollow. Oikos knows this. You can taste the compromise, the way they've leaned hard on texture and balance to fill the gap. It works, mostly, but you can feel the calculation behind every spoonful, every gram calibrated, every note designed. This is yogurt engineered for control, not comfort. Is it perfect? Number. It's still industrial, still processed, still part of the same system that built the sugar traps it's trying to fix. But in a market where high protein usually means high deception, Oikos Triple Zero actually backs up what the label says. The numbers don't lie, the ingredients don't hide, and for once, the promise doesn't collapse the second you peel back the lid. That alone makes it dangerous, because it proves honesty is possible. So why aren't the others doing it? Because honesty doesn't scale as profitably as sugar. And if one brand can do it, the others have no excuse left. Number 4. Chobani Whole Milk, the brand that stopped running from fat. For 2 decades, the yogurt industry declared war on fat. Low fat, fat-free, light, 99% guiltless. Every label screamed the same lie. That fat was the problem, that flavor was the enemy, that health meant choking down chalky sour yogurt that tasted like punishment. And Americans believed it. They swallowed the lie along with the product. Then Chobani did something the industry called reckless. They put the fat back in. 8 grams per serving. Real dairy fat. Unapologetic. The kind that carries flavor, balances tang, and actually keeps you satisfied. And when they did, something shifted. People remembered what yogurt was supposed to taste like, before the diet wars stripped it down to nothing. Peel back the lid and you feel it immediately. Wait, the spoon doesn't splash, it sinks. The surface gleams like cream, not water. Thick enough to hold its shape, smooth enough to melt on your tongue. This isn't texture faked with gums and stabilizers. This is what happens when you let milk stay milk. The numbers: 15 grams of protein, 8 grams of fat, only 5 grams of sugar, no chemical sweeteners, no fake creaminess. The ingredient list is 3 lines: milk, live cultures, salt. That's it. No stabilizers, no modified starch, no fine print trying to hide what's not there. Just proof that simplicity still works, if a company's willing to trust it. The flavor is tart, rich, clean. Nothing added to distract you. Nothing stripped out to meet a trend. You can drizzle it with honey for breakfast or swirl it with olive oil and salt for dinner. It doesn't apologize. It doesn't chase. It just stands there, thick and honest, in an aisle full of products designed to be everything except satisfying. And that's what makes it dangerous. Because Chobani proved something the industry spent decades trying to hide. What if people were never afraid of fat? What if they were just afraid of bad yogurt? What if the entire low-fat movement was built on covering up poor quality with marketing? For years, low-fat meant low flavor, and the industry convinced us that was the trade-off. Health or taste, nutrition or satisfaction. Pick one. Chobani. Whole milk called that bluff. You don't have to choose. The fat isn't the villain. It's what makes yogurt work. It's what your body needs to stay full, absorb nutrients, and stop reaching for the next snack an hour later. And when a major brand brings it back and wins, it exposes every other company still selling guilt disguised as wellness. In a market still crowded with zero-fat formulas and calorie-counting theater, Chobani Whole Milk stands out for refusing to apologize. Heavy, whole, real. It's not a comeback, it's a correction. Number 5. Fage, the Greek original that built the standard everyone else fakes. Before Greek yogurt became a marketing category, before every brand started slapping Greek style on cups full of gums and thickeners, there was Fage, the Athens-based company that showed America what strained yogurt actually means. Not the watered-down imitations, not the stabilized knockoffs. The real thing. And you can feel the difference the second you open it. Wait. Fage doesn't sit in the cup, it settles. The spoon meets resistance, the kind that tells you this yogurt has structure, not scaffolding. That thickness comes from a triple straining process, milk concentrated until what's left is pure protein and cream. No fillers, no starches, no synthetic thickeners pretending to be craftsmanship. Just gravity, time, and patience. 18 grams of protein per serving. No added sugar. The ingredient list, milk and live cultures. That's it. 2 ingredients. In a market where competitors hide behind natural flavoring and mystery stabilizers, Fage keeps it brutally simple. Because when you actually strain the yogurt properly, you don't need chemicals to fake what time can build. The taste is what honesty delivers. Clean, tangy, balanced. Not sweet, not sour, just fermented dairy doing what fermented dairy does. Developing complexity through live cultures, not through a flavor lab. The tang isn't chemical, it's natural bacteria working. The richness isn't whipped air, it's cream. There's a clarity to it that most yogurts have forgotten how to deliver. But here's where it gets complicated. Fage built the category so well that everyone copied it, then cheapened it. Now, supermarket shelves are crowded with Greek-style yogurts using gums and concentrates to mimic what Fage still earns through actual straining. They copied the look, the branding, the thickness. But they skipped the process. And most shoppers can't tell the difference until they taste them side by side. How many people have been buying fake Greek yogurt for years without knowing? How many assume thickness equals quality when it's just gums doing the work? That's the cost of being first. You set the standard, then watch the industry dilute it. Yet Fage hasn't moved. Still thick, still simple, still 2 ingredients. It doesn't chase trends or launch dessert flavors. It doesn't need influencer campaigns or pastel rebrands. It just sits in the refrigerated aisle, quietly defiant, waiting for people to remember what yogurt used to taste like before the knockoffs took over. In a market full of Greek-style imposters, Fage remains the Greek original. Still 2 ingredients. Still the standard every knockoff is trying to fake. Number 6. Too Good, the low-sugar brand that proved light doesn't have to lie. The name sounds like a setup, like the kind of promise that collapses the second you peel back the lid. Because for 30 years, low-fat yogurt has meant the same thing. Thin, sour, fake sweet disappointment masquerading as health food. Too Good breaks that pattern. 2 grams of sugar per serving, 12 grams of protein, low fat, low calories, and somehow, against all odds, it doesn't taste like punishment. That's not marketing language. That's the label. And for once, the cup delivers what the label promises. The texture is the first surprise. It's not rich like Chobani or heavy like Fage, but it doesn't collapse into watery nothing either. It's smooth, steady, intentional. You taste dairy, not chemistry. The sweetness is present but restrained, soft enough to fade before it turns sticky or metallic. That's because Too Good doesn't dump sugar to cover up thin flavor. It uses stevia and monk fruit, 2 plant-based sweeteners that usually taste like someone dropped a coin in your yogurt. But here, they're dialed in correctly. The sweetness hits clean, then disappears. No aftertaste, no chemical ghost, just balance. Compare that to most commercial yogurts packing 12 to 20 grams of sugar in the same space. Compare it to the low-fat disasters of the 90s that tasted like chalk and regret. Too Good sits in the middle. Lower sugar than the mainstream traps, more flavor than the diet failures. It's what happens when a company accepts that some people still count calories, then decides to make something those people would actually choose to eat. The ingredient list backs it up. Milk, cultures, natural flavors, stevia, monk fruit, no artificial colors, no high fructose fillers, no gums or stabilizers faking body. It's simple without being smug about it. Here's what makes it matter. Too Good proves low-sugar yogurt doesn't have to taste low effort. For decades, the industry convinced people that cutting sugar meant sacrificing flavor, that light was code for lifeless. Too Good exposes that as the lie it always was. You can make yogurt with 2 grams of sugar that still tastes like food. You can balance protein and sweetness without drowning the cup in corn syrup or artificial chemicals. And if Too Good can do it, every other brand selling 18-gram sugar bombs disguised as breakfast has no excuse left. In an aisle full of low-fat lies and fake wellness promises, Too Good doesn't shout. It just shows up, consistent and honest. And in today's yogurt market, that might be the rarest thing on the shelf. Number 7. The coconut cult. The fermented extreme that turned gut health into gospel. 25 billion probiotics per serving. Not million, billion. That's more live bacteria than most dairy yogurts pack in an entire container, compressed into a single jar that costs $25 and comes with a warning label telling you to start slow. This isn't a snack, it's a microbial assault. The coconut cult doesn't make yogurt. It makes fermented coconut meat so intensely cultured it keeps evolving after it's sealed. Open the jar and you see it immediately. Thick, dense, no glossy commercial swirl. It moves like something alive because it is. The fermentation is so aggressive the texture lands somewhere between yogurt and pudding, and the flavor hits like pure acidity with no apology. Sharp, tangy, fermented to the edge of sour. This is not the sweet coconut vanilla fluff hiding in the plant-based aisle. This is organic coconut meat blended with coconut water and probiotic cultures, then left to ferment until it hums with bacteria and fat. People describe their first spoonful as a revelation or a dare. Because you don't ease into coconut cult. You either commit or you walk away. The ingredient list. Organic coconut water, probiotic cultures. 3 ingredients. No gums, no oils, no stabilizers. Every jar is made in small batches, fermented slowly, and priced like a luxury supplement. Because at $25 a pint, that's essentially what it is. Is it worth it? That depends on what you're chasing. If you want probiotics at a concentration most yogurts can't touch, Coconut Cult delivers. If you want something that tastes safe and sweet, this will shock you. The probiotic count is real, the fermentation is real, the price is very real. But here's the catch. At $25 a pint, you're paying premium supplement prices for what's essentially fermented coconut. You can get solid probiotic yogurts, like Siggi's or Fage, for a fraction of the cost. They won't hit $25 billion, but they'll deliver live cultures, protein, and flavor without requiring a second mortgage. The coconut cult isn't competing with mainstream yogurt. It's carved out its own corner. Extreme fermentation for people who want maximum bacteria and don't care about the price. In a market where most dairy-free yogurts taste like sweetened coconut water, Coconut Cult went the opposite direction. No sugar, no compromise. Just fermentation pushed to the limit, priced like it knows its worth and unapologetic about being too intense for the average shopper. Whether that's worth $25 is between you and your microbiome. 7 brands that still deliver what yogurt is supposed to be. Now for the 3 you should leave on the shelf. These aren't innocent mistakes or occasional quality slips. They're business models built on sugar, misleading labels, and the assumption that most shoppers won't read past the front of the package. They've turned yogurt, one of humanity's oldest health foods, into dessert, and they're counting on nostalgia and branding to keep you buying. Here are the 3 yogurt brands you should avoid. Number 1 to avoid, La Yogurt, the sugar bomb hiding behind pastel packaging. Soft pastel lid, real fruit, wholesome dairy, the kind of label that makes it feel safe to toss in a lunchbox without reading further. But flip it over. 25 grams of sugar in a single 6-ounce cup, 5 teaspoons. That's more sugar than a Snickers bar. And the protein, 5 grams, barely enough to register. Compare that to Fage or Chobani, which deliver 15 to 18 grams of protein with less than half the sugar. La Yogurt isn't yogurt. It's dessert with better branding. The fruit at the bottom isn't fresh. It's corn syrup, artificial coloring, and a natural flavor. A legal loophole, vague enough to hide an entire ingredient list. The creaminess that makes it feel indulgent isn't richness from dairy. It's modified starch and stabilizers holding a sweet slurry together. La Yogurt has been doing this since the late 1970s, surviving on one thing: nostalgia. Parents who grew up eating it assume it's still what they remember: simple, wholesome, harmless. But the formula has shifted, the sugar has climbed, the protein has dropped. What remains is a product engineered to taste like comfort while delivering the nutritional profile of candy and the damaged compounds. La Yogurt didn't just fool one generation, it trained them. It taught consumers that yogurt should taste sweet, not tangy, that it should feel like pudding, not fermented dairy. And when an entire generation grows up believing that's what yogurt is, the industry follows. Suddenly, every brand is chasing sweetness, and real yogurt becomes the outlier. The label still leans on words like wholesome, traditional, and good source of calcium. But calcium doesn't cancel out 5 teaspoons of sugar. Tradition doesn't make it healthy, and wholesome is just marketing when the fine print reads like a candy bar. People don't buy La Yogurt because it's nutritious. So why do people keep buying it? Recognition, memory, the pastel lid that reminds them of childhood. La Yogurt isn't selling nutrition, it's selling nostalgia. And nostalgia doesn't read labels. This isn't breakfast, it's dessert in disguise. Still buying it? Then ask yourself, when did you last flip over the package and actually read what you're eating? And if you're still buying it thinking it's a healthy choice, the label did its job. Drop a comment. How long have you been buying La Yogurt thinking it was healthy? You're not alone. Number 2 to avoid, Elmexicano Saborico, the drinkable sugar rush disguised as dairy. Bright packaging, happy cows, words like authentic, traditional, and with probiotics splashed across the label. It looks innocent, it feels familiar, it promises culture. What's actually inside? 28 grams of sugar in a single 7-ounce bottle, 7 teaspoons. The protein? 4 grams. That ratio tells you everything. This isn't fermented yogurt, it's sweetened milk with a probiotic claim slapped on for marketing. The tang that real yogurt earns through live cultures and time, replaced with citric acid and natural flavors. The texture? Thin, slick, designed to chug fast. There's no fermentation, no complexity, just a sugar rush chasing the ghost of something real. Here's the trick. Elmexicano sells tradition. The bottle speaks the language of homemade, handcrafted dairy, the kind passed down through generations. But behind that branding is mass production and heat processing aggressive enough to wipe out most live cultures before the product ever reaches you. What's left isn't alive. It's shelf-stable imitation, nostalgia pasteurized into convenience. And it works. Parents grab it thinking it's healthy for their kids. Workers buy it on the go, trusting the label's promise of energy and probiotics, but the live cultures are minimal, the nutrients diluted, and the sugar content rivals soda. This isn't breakfast, it's candy water with a probiotic buzzword. The damage isn't just nutritional, it's conceptual. Products like this train consumers to expect yogurt to taste sweet, to drink like juice, to behave like soda. They've taken one of humanity's oldest living foods, fermented dairy that sustains, and turned it into something that barely qualifies as food. And yet, it keeps selling, because the bottle looks friendly, because sweetness is habit-forming, because most people don't flip it over and read the label until after they've already bought it. Elmexicano Saborico isn't yogurt. It's a sugar delivery system wearing traditional packaging, counting on nostalgia to hide what the nutrition label reveals. 7 teaspoons of sugar, 4 grams of protein, no fermentation worth the name. Is this yogurt or soda with bacteria? At 7 teaspoons of sugar and 4 grams of protein, what exactly are you paying for? If you're buying this thinking it's healthy, the marketing already won. Number 3 to avoid, Yoplait Whips, the air-pumped dessert pretending to be yogurt. 20 grams of sugar, 2 grams of protein. That ratio alone disqualifies it as yogurt. But Yoplait Whips doesn't market itself on nutrition. It markets on texture. And that texture, the signature lightness that feels indulgent, isn't crafted through straining or fermentation. It's air, literally. The cup is puffed full of whipped air and held together with gums. Peel back the lid and you see it immediately. This doesn't move like yogurt. It doesn't hold its shape. It's mousse, engineered to feel special without delivering anything substantial. 5 teaspoons of sugar per 4-ounce cup, barely enough protein to register, and a texture that vanishes the second it hits your tongue. The tang that defines real yogurt, the sharpness earned through live cultures and time, has been sterilized out. What's left is sweetness. Pure, uninterrupted sweetness wrapped in nostalgia and a pastel label that's been sitting in American fridges since the 1980s. And that's the hook. Yoplait Whips has survived for decades on familiarity. Parents who grew up eating it assume it's still what they remember. A harmless indulgence, a little treat that's still good for you. But the formula was never good for you. It was always dessert disguised as dairy, marketed to people who wanted to feel healthy without giving up sugar. The damage is measurable. 2 grams of protein isn't enough to sustain muscle, support metabolism, or keep you full past the next hour. So what are you actually buying? 20 grams of sugar, whipped air, and a memory of something that was never healthy to begin with. For seniors, many of whom still buy this thinking it delivers calcium and protein, it's a particularly cruel trick. At an age when the body needs real nutrition to maintain muscle mass and bone density, Yoplait Whips offers sugar and air, and yet it keeps selling. Bright packaging, familiar branding, the promise of light indulgence. It sounds harmless. It feels like a compromise. But 20 grams of sugar isn't a compromise. It's a blood sugar spike with a spoon. And the texture might feel special, but it's engineered illusion. The sweetness might taste nostalgic, but nostalgia doesn't deliver protein. And the exclamation point on the label, that's the only honest thing about it. Because this product requires enthusiasm to distract from what it actually is. Yoplait Whips isn't yogurt. It's dessert that convinced a generation it was breakfast. And if you're still buying it, the marketing worked. The yogurt aisle is designed to confuse you. Buzzwords on every label. Bright packaging hiding weak nutrition. Here's how to cut through it. 1. Flip the package over. If the front screams Greek style, whipped, light, or zero guilt, ask yourself, what is it compensating for? What is it trying to distract you from? Check the back. If sugar outweighs protein, it's dessert. 2. Demand at least 10 grams of protein. Real yogurt is strained, concentrated, substantial. Anything under 10 grams per serving has been watered down, whipped up, or sweetened into irrelevance. 3. Look for live and active cultures. If those words aren't on the label, don't buy it. Yogurt without live bacteria isn't yogurt. It's pasteurized dairy pretending to be functional food. 4. Keep the ingredient list short. Milk, cultures, maybe fruit, that's it. If you see gums, starches, modified ingredients, or natural flavoring, walk away. Real yogurt doesn't need engineering. 5. Taste for tang, not sweetness. Real yogurt bites back. It's sharp, fermented, alive. If it tastes like pudding or frosting, you're eating dessert with a probiotic sticker. The yogurt aisle is full of products that look healthy, sound healthy, and cost like they're healthy. How many of them actually are? How many times have you bought yogurt thinking it was good for you, only to discover it's basically a milkshake? But most of them aren't. They're sugar-dressed in wellness language, carried by nostalgia and branding. Don't let the label talk louder than the nutrition facts. Pick the one that doesn't need to lie. Because yogurt doesn't owe you sweetness, it owes you honesty. And once you've tasted yogurt that's actually yogurt, everything else tastes like the compromise it always was. Thanks for sticking with me. If you want to see which grocery store hot dogs are basically fillers and chemicals stuffed in a casing, click it on the left. And hit subscribe so you never miss the real truth hiding in your everyday food.